team, it does so well against me.
Oh, you want to play against me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, that's up to you. Usually I think playing against better players really beneficial. Playing against much better player is only beneficial if you do it relatively much. Right, one game won't probably not help too much. You need something like 10 or something.
Right.
And then it starts to get really, really helpful because you can slowly erase your mistakes and you get to the point where you really see underlying and deeper mistakes. But if you just play one game, you probably just lose because of the build or anything, and that's not too helpful. But if you want to do that, we can do that. It's up to you, and it will be helpful regardless. But usually, especially in the first with some people in the over the time of the lessons, I started play against them. But it's usually never the thing I started with. Usually always the thing I started with was watching some play to get to know the player, see what type of mistakes they do, so see what makes most sense to focus on. Yeah. And it just takes a while to learn the player. But since you probably take one lesson anyway, this doesn't actually matter too much.
Right. Okay, well I got a brief play against Mephi, which I'd like some help with. Yeah, I guess he's a much better player, but I thought I was doing well for a while there and then suddenly just lost everything. So if I give you the number, can we have a look at that one?
Yeah, can you also tell me when it was so I can just find it in the vault?
So the date was...
Oh yeah, number should be fine as well. I just need to figure out the command. But I guess it's still the exclamation mark or sharp sign to get the link to it.
So that's the number. I'll just see if I can find the date.
And yeah, if you saw some lessons, then I guess I don't need to explain you the format and different types.
Yeah,
that's
I don't have the replay syncer application.
Yeah, you don't need it. I hope. Okay, do you know how to get the link?
No. If you give me the link, I can download it now, though.
Fine. Let's ask for help.
And it was the 2nd, so February 22nd. That was the date.
Oh wow, it's spamming me with admin commands. Fine, let's find it on the vault. February 22nd, that's a while. Do you know the map? Maybe that can
Loki.
narrow it down a bit. Wait, will you Skype screen share? So I might as well start so I can see what I'm struggling with.
Okay.
You don't happen to know the correct name of Loki? I guess it's something.
Yeah, because there's different versions.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. See if that works. No. Okay, let's find it like this then. So, what did you say? 2nd February?
27th of February.
Oh, 27th. Alright.
Yeah, that one.
That one. Alright. And if you don't mind, I will record this and maybe put it on YouTube because I got some requests to upload more lessons.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah, that could be helpful for you as well. Usually I recommend people to take notes because it can be quite a lot of information. Well, if you have the recording, don't necessarily have to do it, even so it could still be helpful depending on how you learn. But that's entirely up to you.
Okay, so I've loaded it as well. I'm at 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, if you have two screens, then that's fine. Otherwise, you should, if the quality is fine, watch on my screen, because I can actually see my mouse, and I use it.
Yeah, I've got two screens. I'll do it that way.
Okay, nice. What's left is you pretty much only have to listen, and if you have any questions, then please ask it.
Okay.
People actually don't ask enough questions, because sometimes I figure out that they have a question that they didn't ask, and then I always have to complain, because if you have a just if you have a question, ask. And also not just if you have a question, also if you well, that game has been a while now already, but if you remember everything about what you thought in this game, that's really useful.
I remember a little bit of it. It was from one of the tournaments, so yeah, I remember.
So especially about the things I mention and I talk about, but also other things. If you just remember why you did certain things, what your thought process were, that's really helpful, because I can only see what's here, but lots of mistakes happening in like the reasoning why you do things, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you if it was something important and why I made a big decision.
Yeah, so that would be really useful. Even not only big things, even small things can be useful. So I see you do you do know how to build on this map. That's quite sophisticated. And going here with SES, it's looking very up to the standards of play on this map. Let me think if there's anything else, otherwise we can probably speed up the start a little bit. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything to say in advance, and can be quite a bit of information, but you don't need to worry too much. I will also usually try at the end of the lesson give a summary what I think is most important or most useful to focus on.
Yep. I just missed an engineer that was getting
I saw that it was killed as almost, but it's quite ambitious to try to kill that engineer with a lab, because it's usually protected with a tank like yours.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt too much trying, and you
this bomber does quite well.
Yeah, killing that NG and then as well. Yeah, that's really good going for this NGs instead of ones with a base, because killing this NG actually denies the hydro plant for a while, and that can be really useful. I think usually people, or at least me, I go directly for this NGs and I don't try to kill this one. But if you can get everything, of course that's really good. And so if I would have a choice, I would say this NG is actually more worth to kill than this one.
Right.
If you have to decide. Because this one is easier to replace and there is use there as well. And yeah, your start is looking really good. Maybe that's part of the reason why you're doing quite well against much better player. Or maybe not that much, but even so, I would argue 1500. Like, Mephi is good enough to give me a challenge sometimes. So you do build a lot of Taiwan factories, which is possible on this map, but I will actually say it's not too easy to get ahead with only Tech 1 on this map, and well, at least when I play it, it's usually more eco heavy. But that's okay, but you need to be aware that if you start falling behind in eco, that you need to get map control in return, and you need to use those units. Because if your opponent ecos, then well, he's obviously having less units than you, so you need to try to use that advantage. Nothing of that is happening so far, but it's always quite important to be aware of what your opponent is doing, but especially in terms of eco. And I think that's one of the maps where it's especially important. So to not just do your kind of play, right, what you do, but also be aware of what this is meaning for the game and how you need to adapt what you're doing depending on what your opponent does.
Yeah. So scouting.
Yeah, you don't even need to scout for that, interestingly. You need to scout once to see his mass extractors, but otherwise you would see if he's stashing mass extractors, right? You don't need to scout for that. You just need to zoom out and look at his base once in a while for the specific thing. And that's actually really important for all games. What you should do, in case you don't do that yet much, is try to start doing that, is always when you zoom out, which you should naturally do a lot, from time to time take a peek at his base and look if there's any upgraded things.
Yeah.
And when that happens, scouting is sometimes overrated by many people even. Sometimes it's underrated, but it's more important to scout. When you scout, it's more important than just scouting constantly and really often. It's better to scout just sometimes and at the really good times.
Right.
Okay, so you both rate each other relatively much as you go to the different sides, which means the game is quite ordered, right? And yeah, that's ugly. That's a lot of units. So
I really didn't get much of that reclaim, which is near those 3 mass extractors over the hill.
yeah, and that's a real problem, because getting this reclaim is a really important part for this map. So what I usually do is actually you build a factory here with the Angie, and I usually just go directly for mass extractors and then reclaim, and then I build a factory with the ACU. Even so, it's not necessarily bad what you're doing with the factory, because if you don't get raided and get the factory done, then you save a lot of time and can move the ACU much faster, because you don't need to stop to make a factory. So it has downsides and upsides. In this game it kinda backfired, but that doesn't really make it bad. Then what I do, since in my first factory, after first few tanks I built only Angies, there isn't actually much to do for the Angies in the base after expanding Angies, right? You need like 4 Angies to expand, and then you need 2 or 3 Angies to build or something, and then all the other Angies have nothing to do. So what I do is, while this factory is building, I actually send 2 or 3 Angies more while the ACU is on the way. So quite early I send more Angies from my base, so they can already start reclaiming before the factory is even done, and that can be really nice. And it helps in a lot with a lot of different things, and it would have probably helped you here as well. Then question is, why is he having you're spending your mass quite well. You could probably build 1 more factory right now, but or even start dashing. I wouldn't recommend dashing in that situation. Probably first clean up this mess and get into a safe position, and then usually you start taking mass extractor with the reclaim, or with the second half of this reclaim or something.
Okay.
But you have about 30 units, and he has already 50. Right, so something must have went wrong already, quite wrong, and I think it's not only the reclaim. See how much factories he got. He got 6 and almost 1 more. While you actually have 7. So that's a bit strange, and I didn't see you stalling. I might have missed some major engagement, I'm not sure, because we're talking a little bit about the other things, and I actually want to come back to that as well. But I don't think you lost many units, did you?
There wasn't any, because I've looked at this one before, there wasn't any big engagement around then.
Maybe we should watch this again then, because and watch from Observer to see the actual difference, because he's already so much ahead, which is in part because of the reclaim, but I'm not sure if that's the only reason, but I don't really see anything that you did wrong or did different. You even delayed the start quite a bit, and you get your radars, that's really nice. You do spend your mass, and as long as you expand properly and then spend your mass, then you shouldn't be so much behind. So might want to restart this. But to finish the point, so how much would you say you actually look at, like, if he's taking mass extractors or also taking factories? Same thing applies there. And how much you adapt to that? Or would you say you rather just play your stuff relatively independent of what the opponent does?
Yeah, I do play my stuff until about 15 minutes, and I get worried about T3 air and stuff like that, and then end up spending mass on scout streams and really paying attention to his base. But early on, I don't really look that much, no.
Okay. And many maps can get away with that because it's hard to take, but on Loki it can be easy. So imagine he would already have 2 Tech 2 mass extractors, and that would really change how you have to play, because it means you have to play much more aggressive, and you can also expect that you have more units, so you can kind of take more risks. But it also means that you have to get map control, because otherwise you will fall behind. Which means right now you raid this, he's raiding this, so it's completely equal. Which makes sense, because he doesn't have mass extractor, so you have the same amount of units. We have much more, but we will figure that out soon. But if he would have mass extractor, he would maybe have less unit, and that would mean you would have to maybe raid this and take this properly with your unit advantage. And then what will usually happen is that he will take this back sooner or later, because he still has his mass extractor. With his reinforcements, that it's easier for him to take it back than for you to keep denying it, right? Maybe he can bring his SU. So, and once he got this back, map control is even again, and he still has his mass extractor, so he will be ahead again. So in the time, you have 2 alternatives, but the one alternative, and the most times easier, is in the time from starting when you raid this until you get it back, you get your own 2 mass extractors, or even 3, so you can actually get an advantage out of it, right? But by the time he got it back, you don't want to be behind on economy anymore, because you need to think about a trade-off. You get map control, he gets economy advantage, and once the trade ends, he gets map control back, you also want to have the economy advantage back.
Yeah.
So and that's one way to think about it. And the alternative is to not eco and to keep pressuring with units, but then a good idea is to kill him fast. Right? Then if you think you can go for the kill, then or you can maybe kill his base or something. So kind of if you can end the game soon, then it's also was an idea to just ignore that fact that you will fall behind, because it doesn't matter if you fall behind in 5 minutes if you can end the game in 4. But it's
I do find myself in those situations quite a lot in ladder, where there's someone's teching, or I see the opportunity to snipe the comm and just take it and put everything into a one strategy, and
so
either lose or win from that.
That can fail, right? And then you lose. While with the eco, that's a nice thing of choosing this eco strategy. In theory, boss is about the same good, right? If you go for eco, if you go for killing ACU with your unit advantage, or even if you just keep pressuring with the map, that also works, because you will have more units, and then you can take more map control actually. So he will have mass extractors, you will have raided this, an example, and then you can keep going and then raid this, and then you start raiding more and more, and at some point you keep units and you deny it in return, and then his economy advantage will not actually win you the game, because you even it out with more and more map control. Problem with that is, if you do a mistake, if you do like a bad engagement or something, then this will probably make you lose a game, because then you can't continue your pressure. While if you have the economy lead, or if you're equal, then if you do a mistake, you can actually even it out, because you just reproduce more. So that's a nice thing about economy in this game. It actually allows you to do more mistakes, right? And and it's a very forgiving way to play the game. While other ways to play the game, if you play while being behind in economy, or play a different style that's not so economy based, it does work, but it's much less forgiving. So it's harder in the end.
I still do play a lot of Setons, and I used to be quite low ranked and not very good and losing everything until I ecoed a lot more than I thought I should do, and I think I can eco well when I put my mind to it, but I don't as much in 1v1.
Yeah, so that would be kind of the basic principle, and one way, unless you have an adversity to eco, is to make sure that if you fall behind in eco, that you use your advantage that you should have to catch up. even if you don't
Yeah.
have an advantage, it usually makes a lot of sense to try to catch up anyway, and get at least as much eco as he got, and just try to. You will in return have less units, but try to hold your territory with less units, right? But thing is, if you have less units for a while and then you have same economy as he does, you still have a pretty good chance to win. But in return, if you just hold your ground and if you don't catch up in economies, then he will increase his lead more and more, and ultimately you will lose. If you don't catch up, if you are behind in economy and you don't catch up, then you either kill him soon or you will lose.
Yeah.
So usually it's a really good idea to catch up, even if you think you can't really afford it. So if in doubt, ecoing is a relatively good concept. Okay. If you don't have questions to the stuff, because that's I think one of the most useful principles about the game, and one of the I usually try to put relatively complex, like this whole thing is quite complex. When to eco and when not? It's a really complex question, and there's very many aspects to it. I usually try for these lessons, especially, to break it down in a very simple concept, and the concept of trade map control for eco, and then return the trade, and then if you fall behind in eco, catch up. This I found two quite simple concepts that work, like at least 90% of the times. Unless you have any questions to that, then I would restart.
No, not at this point.
Let's find out why he's having so many units than you, more than you. I think it can't be just the reclaim, because the reclaim only came in at the end, and that's not enough time to build up so many units yet. So something's strange. The only explanation would be that he did build his factories much earlier than you, since you actually have more factories than he does, but less units. And this can often lead to less units if you stall, because then you invested your mass into factories instead of units, and you stall your unit production, but you didn't really stall. So let's see, he's building third air in the first place, but that's actually punishing him. That's the reason why your bomber is working so well. So kind of lucky, because that's why usually if you go for this NGs against second air, you can still kill them. So if he would have won second air, then you would have probably only killed this NG, and
be much worse off.
Yeah, so that's why I think it might be usually a better idea to go for this NGs, even so in this case it paid off. So, well, right now he already got 3 land factories, you got 2. So that explains it a little bit. And I would guess he reclaimed... Did you manually reclaim on the way? Yeah, you did. So how is he actually affording that?
My screen share's frozen. I don't know.
Oh,
something your end.
Yeah, that's a problem, especially since you're Australian, right?
Yeah.
That it's sometimes the screen share is not really living up to my expectations. And is it still frozen? If I zoom a bit.
Yeah, still frozen. It was completely fine for the whole time.
Yeah, sometimes it's really fine and then it gets bad. I will restart it and let's just hope, because sometimes it's really bad, and that really is a problem for my lessons.
Oh yeah, all good now.
Okay, nice. Should we really... I'm slightly lost here, I have to admit, because you don't have anything. Like, your build seemed really fine. Well, you do have a half factory here. And okay, so I figured it out. You have 2 half built factories here, right? And he got 1 factory in return.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just not good. Usually I try to avoid building factories with 1 single NG. Even so, sometimes I also build the factory here for a while, and then at some point I stop doing it, because might as well just build it in your base with 2 NGs, and then you get it earlier. And yeah, also then you could do what I do, is build this mass extractor. So it's usually unless it's an acceptation, I guess. And a special case, it's always better to take mass extractor first. Because obviously if you take factory first and then mass, then you will get less mass in total. And more mass in total always sounds like a good idea. So factory before mass extractor is only good if there's a really good reason for it. In this case there's maybe a good reason, because factory here early is quite useful. But there's always the risks of the NG dying, so what actually happened. So it's quite risky as well. And in the end, in combination with the fact that you also build a half-built factory here, then I would say that might be already start of what's happening here. This is not really a major problem, right? But together with other things we will probably see, it will lead to that unit advantage. It's one of many factors. And that could be avoided by just building with like 2 NGs. I wouldn't use ACU. ACU needs to go to the front. So NGs build 1 factory in the base, and then you will get more units with a factory. You will get more mass because you take this. So 2 nice advantages. And yeah, you do actually stall a little bit, but not too much. But now you have 3 mantis. And you already got 9, right?
There it is, yeah.
And then it's so hard to play with that advantage, and you need to think about it. So, if your first factory is only building NGs, and like 2 mantis or something, like this, and his Kirby as well, then you can't really include it in, if you count factories, right? Because it's not, so if you want to look at how many units you're each building, then you are building units from 1 factory, and he is building units from 2 factories. So,
yeah,
the third factory you build, or the second factory you build, is kind of the most important, so you want to have that as fast as possible. The third factory is still extremely important because it's doubling your unit production, depending how many NGs you build in your first factory. While the next factory, the first, like exclude air, first land factory, is only giving you 33% unit production. And the next factory is only giving you 20%. So as more factories you have, as less each factory, as less important the next factory becomes. But in return, this means the early factories are really important. So building 2 factories at the same time instead of having 1 earlier really matters if it's so early. And well, then on top, like he also has more units. It wouldn't be that extreme, but he also has third air, right? So he does have an advantage from that. And then you can also see what that he is kind of doing what I would do, and sending earlier NGs. I would probably send this NG here to reclaim as well now. Or well, he actually, yeah, he needs 2 NGs to build, or maybe 3. And all the other NGs I would afterwards send here to reclaim already. And he is sending 2 NGs at least with ACU. ACU is building the factory and then 1 NG reclaiming 1. So he kinda has 2 NGs. I would probably send more if I have more. Depending if on NGs dies, then you have to replace them and you have less. And then yeah, you build another. You also have much more power. He's much more efficient with his power, right? He's actually having not enough, but you have too much. You're wasting power.
Yeah, I just finished the Hydra down the bottom.
Yeah, it's not much. And I would say for your skill level, like 1500, that's perfectly fine. Because if you don't store mass, if you reclaim properly, then you can actually need this power. So you waste it in a short term a little bit, right? But it's rather a slight misplanning in terms of how much mass you get, and it's just not fitting 100% together. But it's not like you build too much power. It's that you build this power a little bit too early. And that's not a major mistake, but that's also a reason here. That you, especially in the early game, wasted power could as well be another factory. And he is now he's starting to build his power now, so that's a little bit too late in return. But it's actually still better than wasting, like stalling a little bit, as long as he doesn't need radar to be up or anything. But yeah, now he already got 30 units, and you have 13. So it's actually speaking for you that you don't get completely crushed, and that you don't get completely overrun by this unit advantage, that you actually manage to somewhat even out the map control. Because especially against a better player, there are two things. If you have same amount of units, it's hard to play against a better player, but it's worse because usually against a better player you have less units because he's building more efficient, and playing with less units against an even skilled player is already really hard, and then doing that against a better player. So, and then you see the reclaim isn't really mattering for this unit advantage because it's coming later, but it will probably make it worse. Okay, so that are the reasons, right? It's to some degree a little bit power, and to some degree those factories. And so what can you do to stop that? So first thing is to, already mentioned it, build the factories, one factory in the base instead of two half-built ones, and then build a little bit later power, right? So once you actually need it, send more NGs here, and then the next thing is more short-term reaction. Is if you see the situation, you should actually start to it would be a good situation to do some manual reclaim here, instead of building the mass extractor, to just so you fix the stall for a second, right? If you have time. So two conditions. First, you need to actually look at it, which in theory you should always be aware of your state of economy. So if you're aware of that you're stalling, and then you have time, you have nothing really important to do, like microing units or anything, then that would be a good idea. Wouldn't be worth it to delay it. And just if you have a little bit master storage, then you go back to finish building a master extractor, and the next engines come up to reclaim. Okay, so that explains the unit difference. And then your mass stalls are also leading to losing air because you are producing less intis since you're stalling. Even so, quite close. So not really a big deal. Yeah, and then somewhat unfortunate that you actually managed to finish the factory, but then he's killing it. So another investment that went bad while he didn't even try. But I would say it's always good to try to build those factories. And if you had same amount of units, then you might have been in a situation to protect this factory, and then you would have been in a much better situation than he is.
Yeah, I felt super pressured under this one. He seemed to have all his units right at the front the whole time.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just rally points.
Yeah, no, it's just that he has more units. Right, so there isn't really anything except building, like avoiding the building mistakes. There isn't really too much you can do against this. Like you could have, if you scouted well and you see that he has so many more units and everything, then you could have probably thrown up a point defense here. That would have been quite good. But I would say it's relatively hard to anticipate and just expect that he will have so many more units and send them there, and lots of things come together there. And now he already starts ecoing. And now it would be a good time because you actually have enough mass to catch up. So now would be a really good time to get your own tech to mass extractor to not fall behind. Because if you just fall behind a little bit, it's not so bad. It starts to become really bad when it snowballs, when you start to get behind too much, because then while you catch up, he gets more and more ahead. And you don't have the time anymore to catch up. But if it's only a small disadvantage, you actually do have the time to catch up in economy. You kinda also need more factories and more units, and that's the situation that I talked about earlier. You can't really afford to eco, but if you don't eco, then you will most likely lose. So you still have to do it, and just try to somewhat hold with less units. Even so, you would also need more units. But if you need both, then usually eco is a better choice. Yeah, sometimes in that situation it can also make sense to build point defense even here. Right, if you get to it, or here or something. So point defense would have been a good idea if you managed to get it up before your NG's dying.
Yeah, I didn't have many NGs there at any one point because of the constant raiding.
Right, you actually went tech 2. That's not bad, especially since you fell behind in units. Right, so you kinda needed to do something. But if you go tech 2, then you need to try to assist it as much as possible. So maybe all these NGs except the ones that build power. Even so, you can make an argument that you don't need to build power right now, you do have enough. Like in the mid-term you probably need some power, but short-term not really. So always try to assist the tech 2 as much as possible, because you put yourself behind by going tech 2. So you need to use this tech 2 advantage as soon as possible. So you need to get units out quickly. And as many tech 2 units as possible. And ideally you would want to invest all your resources into tech 2 and not produce too much tech 1 anymore.
Yeah, I scouted his tech 2 lane and I knew I had to go tech 2 lane in response.
Oh right, that was
the reason for doing
yeah,
that.
I didn't even see his tech 2. Yeah, that makes it to something reverse, and then you tried rebuilding this. And you
I left the point defense and the 3 mass extractors to go and harass down the side because I felt I just had to be aggressive somehow.
Yeah, that's a really good decision. Even so, it could also make a good case that if you leave this, then you will probably lose this. So it would also be a good idea to move ASU here instead, to protect this from other extractors. But in general, the idea that if you are falling behind, then you have to play more aggressive, that's a really good way of thinking. And yeah, getting tech 2 power. So yeah, your decision here is pretty good. Also tech 2 mass extractor. Even so, now you would probably go and look what he has. He has 3 tech 2 mass extractor, so you kinda need to catch up soon. Even so, right now I wouldn't, because you just went tech 2, so you want to use your tech 2 for a little bit. Try to focus, because it just got done, so you want to try to get most out of it by pushing out as many units as possible. And it's same principle as with the factories. Like the 3rd factory matters much more than the 4th, 5th and so on. And same with the early tech 2 units. The first few tech 2 units matter a lot. And they are much more valuable than like the 10s or something. So it makes sense to try to focus getting out the first few tech 2 units. And after that you can switch more to different projects. Like in example this tech 2 pigeon. It's not bad at all, but it could have made sense to try to assist first 5 rhinos out of it, because you know the first 5 rhinos are the most important ones or something, and then you get the tech 2 pigeon.
Yeah, I thought I needed the power because it was pretty low, but now it's almost too much. Like I maybe could have survived just with a few extra tech 1.
Yeah, you could recycle some tech 1 pigeons, and so in the midterm the tech 2 pigeon is definitely good, because well, it's a tough decision, because if you don't need so much in the future, then you shouldn't build it. But usually on Loki, since you want to continue ecoing, you will need the power. And if you will need it in the future, then tech 2 power is always a good idea. And if you end up too much, you can always recycle tech 1 pigeons as well if you have some free APM. So as mid-term decision or something. But if you want to get just a short-term advantage, then skipping tech 2 power in favor of just building a few tech 1 pigeon can be a quite good idea. And I feel like in your position, short-term advantage could have maybe helped you quite a bit to just get a little bit more tech 2 out to stabilize your situation, clean up the stuff, and regain your map control. Because now, now you lost eco and map control, right? And that's almost impossible to recover from. And he's
it was about this point I realised that this one pretty much lost. I didn't have a chance anymore. Drops on the side and...
Yeah, I think so. And I would even argue that from the point where he had 50 mantis and you had 30, it was extremely hard to not lose. So it would have been hard for me to not lose from that situation. Going tech 2, so what is this? Is this you trying to go for snipe?
Yeah, that's all that was. I knew it was over by then.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think
just
that also,
Corsairs.
that's also the best thing you can do in that situation. So, except execution. If you go for snipe, then focus everything into it. Also, he bombing you. Yeah, you would also need intis. You're just spinning Corsairs. Okay, a few things here. Decision to go for snipe is really good. Now you switch to intis. That's also good. But what you would want to do is pause everything. Pause all these factories. Right? You don't need land units anymore. You can even think about recycling some factories or something if you need mass. But once you go for snipe, commit to it, right? Completely.
Yeah.
And
I had sniped in the game before, in a Twin Brothers game, and I think he knew that I was going to do that, and just had his ACU in the water,
not too
and it
unlikely.
didn't really work.
But yeah, just in general, pause all your factories and then spend all your resources into the snipe. If you don't have enough engies to do that, then, well, don't pause your factories, but instead build engies from them. And then, yeah, that's a new factory, so that's really good to build a new factory if you go for snipe, so you can't see it on the radar, so that it gets teched. You will have bombers out anyway. But you would also usually try to, yeah, don't, I mean, you forgot this one, but keep building intis as well. So usually from this factory you would build intis, right?
Yeah, I stopped building intis from the one making. Sorry,
try
stop
to
making
take air control
Corsairs.
because you don't build the anti so much to protect from the Corsairs, but you build them to try to avoid getting scouted, right? That's why you need intis, why you need air control, so you can, if you have good radar coverage, you can kill incoming scouts and try to, yeah, avoid reaching them your base. And that's since you don't have too much to do anymore when you go for a snipe, just play defensive, keep your units, yeah, try to avoid getting overrun as long as possible. You have a lot of attention to actually look if scouts are coming and then try to kill them, and have like maybe one group of inti here, one group of inti here or something, to kill incoming scouts. And for that you need the intis. That's one of the main purposes. And then just also for the snipe, it's good in general to have more intis if you try to air snipe someone. And it's relatively cheap to make the intis, so usually I kinda split my assist between both factories, Tech 2 and Tech 1.
I stopped building Corsairs and made 20 intis, and then tried to go back to Corsairs.
Yeah, but that's gonna take a while. So and he also scouted it, so if he scouted it and you don't have a couple of Corsairs already, so if he scouted it, you should expect him. He starts making anti-air and shield and stuff now, right? So you have a very limited time from the point where he scouted to what you actually want to do. And since you're stalling, nothing is gonna get produced. So that's why it's so important to pause all the other factories and try to get some reclaim everywhere and so on. Side effect, if you reclaim Tech 1 factories, then, and yeah, you definitely should not eco if you go for snipe, because that mass extract is gonna pay off in a few minutes. Side effect of reclaiming Tech 1 factories is that he might actually think that you go for heavier Tech 2, because reclaiming Tech 1 factories looks like you upgrade them to Tech 2. So what I do is I don't reclaim all my Tech 1 factories, because that looks suspicious, because you would usually not upgrade all of them to Tech 2. But I just reclaim 1 or 2. So if he doesn't scout, then on vision it kinda looks to him like I just upgrade more factories to Tech 2, right? And that might make him, like, good players often scout less, because they think they have a pretty good idea about what's happening. They don't need to
and
scout.
I'm dying down at the bottom from gunships and torpedo bombers.
We can probably stop watching, you know.
Yeah, it's game over.
Okay. So, would you like to watch more replays, or would you still like to play?
I would like to play. I don't really have any particularly good replays. I don't find myself in ones that I'm really going to win, or really going to not win it that often. Like, they usually end pretty quickly.
Okay, well, as you wish. I think can pretty much take something out of every replay. unless it's a complete stomp or something, but any replay that is yeah, not super one-sided, and even these, but other ones are better, can learn a lot from them. At least I have not found some people often say this, like I don't have any replays that I was watching, and then just I pick some, and I haven't seen a single replay that I can't learn something from. But if you would rather like to play, then we can absolutely do it. It's up to you.
In that case, I've got one I did lose quite hard, but I'm sure you've got a couple of things to say on it. It's a more recent one, so more like what I'm playing currently, because it's been a while since February. That number is... I'll type it in Skype.
Oh, can you send me the date and map and opponent present?
So it was against Softly's the 2 days ago.
This one, Lost Paradise?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a hard map, I would think. Like
yeah, and I pretty much never played it, so...
Yeah. So a lot of different... Like, on such big maps, a lot of different things apply, and probably tough to cover them all in just one replay. But, let's see. But, yeah, if I just look at this game, then I would actually argue that there are a lot of useful replays. Like, at least from time, if it's not under 10 minutes or something, or under 15, then all should be useful. So, we can still play if you want, but if you think you don't have any useful replays, then I would argue against that. Okay, so, what to do if you end up with a map like this? That's kinda scary, because there's so much to do, but yeah, I would say if I end up on a map that I never played, then I just go around and look and try to make up a rough idea. So usually, if it's largely spaced out, then expanding with transports is a pretty good idea, especially if it has like island stuff like this. So dropping here with a transport is rather obvious, and as earlier you can do that, as better. And then there's some reclaim, but not too much. So especially this one in the base can probably boost the start a bit, so I would plan to reclaim that and probably take that to get more energies to
Some
build.
of that reclaim is glitched and you can't actually reclaim it, like the two bottom rocks.
Yeah.
Like there was no... Yeah.
Okay. Well, sometimes you just have to spam a lot of clicks on them, because there's some little tree in the way or something. But anyway, I know this glitch repair. So, what you should definitely not do in normal blazes is move your ACU too early to expand. Because you do have a lot of mass, and it's much more important to spend it fast. And pretty much on any... there's a very rare map you actually want to do that. On almost any map you want to get at least a second factory, because we talked about how valuable the second factory is, because it's like 100% of unit production almost. And on big maps is you might even want to build engines in your second factory on top. Because if you... just think about if you get the double amount of engines, how much mass that will get you compared to how much the ACU can get for you. So I would say that's quite a big mistake here. And first priority should always to spend your mass. And in the early game, there isn't really any way to spend the mass except for the ACU. And then on maps like this, it's more also to... limiting factor to a large degree is having enough power to spend your mass, because you will get so much mass from all the mass extractor once you have them. So getting enough power will be much harder. So ACU should probably... I would probably not move my ACU at all from the base. I would just build factories and power, and then I use the factory to expand. And I would very soon have much more mass than you, because I would have much more energies. And I wouldn't store power either, because I would probably assist my hydro first, right? And then go from there. And we can compare that to what he's doing. So he's getting the hydro quite late. And then I would probably try to get the reclaim to even assist my ACU, so I can build even faster. So the focus should really be on building and getting up as many factories. Usually that's the goal on most maps. Get up as many factories as soon as possible. And that should be the priority. And expanding is only the second priority. It's still important, but expanding without spending the mass is quite worthless.
Okay.
Having mass in storage, you need to think about having mass in storage is like wasted mass, almost. because you're not using it. So if you have this mass in storage and he's having it in units, so this is so much better than except that he's having much power, but he's probably preparing power for when all that mass starts to be there, so he can spend it. He's using that mass, and then he is like, whenever you use mass, then you get advantages from it, so it snowballs. And he will get more mass from it in return. But he's actually not really playing it as good as well, but I guess he also probably never played it in 1v1 or something. But now another factory is coming up. But he could already have also more factories. And with more factories, more NGs, potentially more raiding units, faster expansion, which lead to more mass, so you can get even more factories, and then you can start pressure your opponent and everything. While so the difference is not as big as it could be, but you have 3 factories, and I think he has 4, right? So already we can see it as 25% more factories, but you can also think about that way. He has WR production, and everything else is the same. That sounds, suddenly it's much worse. Like 25% more factories is one thing, but WR production, that's really bad. Because that means he gets air control and he can bomb all your expanding NGs if he wants to. Yeah, now you're slowly recovering kind of from this by starting to have enough NGs, and yeah, I think on big maps like this, on maps with lots of reclaim, like an example Bermuda Locket or Crossfire Canada or something, really good idea to actually have 2 NG factories. Right, so assist the NG factory with another NG. With another factory.
I do that on other big maps, but I didn't have a game plan for this one. So yeah, that was kind of explaining moving the ACU, because it's just something you do.
Yeah, try like in the first minutes while your factory is building, or maybe even in lobby already, try to make at least a very rough game plan, so you're not completely lost and you don't play out of like complete instinct, because that will lead to many mistakes like this. So when you come in situations that you have an unusual map, try to think about very rough plan what you want to do before the game starts or while your factory is building. So because once you start playing, once you start moving around on something, you don't really have time to think anymore, so you just act out of basic instinct and basic gut feeling what to do. But I would say it's much more ordered if you have a basic idea. So you make like a few focus points what you want to do. So one focus point, I want to get this transport, and I want to get my second NG factory, and then I want to just want to expand and protect those units. Right, that would be my game plan. Just get early factories, expand here with NGs, protect that with units, and spam relatively much Tech 1 because it's quite an open map, try to raid a bit, and then get my transport relatively early to go here, and then see from there. So it doesn't need to be a very complicated or very like the plan doesn't need to cover too much, but have something, so you're not lost.
I had the plan for this one to do a big spam down the bottom and built all the factories to do that, but didn't have the mass extractors on the top to support it. And I'm just in a huge stall.
So you did actually have a plan, so that's good. It doesn't really matter how good the plan is, but it's really important to have something to hold on to, and something you can always change the plan as well. But I think it's really useful to at least have one. So you don't end up into situations that you think about you have lots of things to do, everything you need to protect raids, you need to you have idle NGs, idle factories, and so on. And on top of that, you have the feeling in your mind that you're like, oh, holy shit, what should I do? I have no idea. Right? That's something to avoid. Even if your plan is not the best thing you could do, it's still better than being completely lost, because that will just stress you and lead to doing a lot of mistakes everywhere. And it's still better to have something to fall back to in case you don't really know what you want to do. Yeah, I didn't phrase it very well, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so yeah, mass stall is kind of recovering, but he is already having basically double your income. And if you play against a better player, I would say playing on such a map is at least very challenging. And that's what I mean. That's something, if you play one game, it's hard to learn from it so much, because you already lose in 5 minutes, and everything after 5 minutes you can't learn too much from it, because there isn't really any chance of you of doing anything right, because you have less units, and you can't do too much right with less units, because no matter what you do, it will be bad, and you will lose. And that's why playing against slightly better player is much better. And if you play against better player, like when I play in my lessons against much worse players, like I don't know, around 1000 Rider or something, I usually try to pick one of the easiest maps, so usually 5x5, to even that out a little bit, so they can actually reach the point while playing a couple of times, where they can learn more, where they don't already lose in the first few minutes. And they start learning how to play and not just how to do the start build right.
Yeah, the reactionary decisions.
Yeah, learn how to make actual decisions in the game and not just learn how to play efficiently for the first few minutes. But that need to be to get to that point where you can learn how to make good decisions. Is you need to get the efficiency and the basic things on par with your opponent first. And on such big maps like that, it's not gonna happen anytime soon that you will get on the same level in terms of pure efficiency as your opponent. So you don't really reach the point where your decisions matter.
Sounds very bad.
Well, you still learn from it, right? But you still you just learn the efficiency first. You start with that. And since larger maps take more time, like right now, you can't learn too much anymore. You can still learn very little things, like learn... Well, it's not really learning, it's more just practicing. Maybe practicing multitasking a bit, practicing to defend against raid, like sending units everywhere while balancing economy. You can still learn to have decent economy balance, you can learn to eco properly, you can learn to get a feeling about having so much mass, right? Because when you're used to maps with less mass, like pretty much everyone is, then it can be really challenging when you suddenly have so much mass on your hands. So just practicing that, but to be honest, you could practice it just as good as Sandbox, right? Where you just take your half of the map and you just avoid having too much overbuilding power, you avoid power stalling, you avoid wasting mass. So just get a feeling about balancing power, build power and mass. It's still useful to play these games for that, right? But it doesn't have too much to do with your opponent.
Yeah.
Even so, it's still better to practice it in with an opponent, because, well, you get a more realistic feeling for it, because you actually have to do other things as well. So, if you practice it only in Sandbox, and once you play against a real opponent, it will probably still completely overwhelm you, because you used to have so much time and attention free to care about all the things that suddenly you don't anymore, because you have to do so many things at once. So I think it doesn't really matter actually how you practice it, because if you let's say you play 10 Sandbox games on this map and then you play an opponent, then it will still be already much easier, because you already have a pretty decent idea what to do.
How to start it, at least, yeah.
Yeah, how to start, and also how to deal with all the mess, and have a good feeling. Even so, it might, it might be also go a little bit into the other direction, really depending on you. That you might be used so much to having all your mess, and then you get raided a lot, and then you have much less mess than you are used to, and you have to build more units and invest less into eco, because you're actually playing against a person, that it screws with your habits, that you will probably build too much power and store mass, because you're used to having too much, and you will have less in a real game. But anyway, yeah, he's tech 3 now, so we're actually not talking too much about this game, but there isn't really too much. He's tech 3 and you're still on tech 1, so
yeah, I saw that and I was like,
same thing again. Just go for snipe. This would be a really good point to go for snipe actually. And on large maps, a small map as easier to go for a snipe, because the cost for a snipe always stays the same. You always need, like, I don't know, 10 Corsairs, whatever. As many Corsairs as you can get, pretty much. So on maps with much mass, like alone this bit is usually like how much mass you have on Loki. Kinda. If you got rated quite a bit. No, not completely, but kinda. So it's much easier to get the necessary 10 Corsairs. Let's just say 10. And you can get it in a fraction of the time as on a small map. So snipes on bigger maps get much easier.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, especially on big maps, if you realize falling behind, going for the snipe can be really easy. So same thing. What you could do here is just get all this factory. Like this would be a case in a small map. You would probably want to pause your factories. Here you have so much mass that you just build engines out of all these factories, and then you just need to make sure to have enough power. So with 1 or 2 P-gens, you set everything on your Tech Tube factory. Make lots of Corsairs. Like you kind of plan this already. And then there's not a too bad chance that it's working. You might even get more out, like 20 or something. He doesn't even have a shield. But you might get enough out that you kill even with a shield, even without having too many intis. But you do have a decent amount of intis. And then the other thing you want to do is kinda, if you are able to, like you stop making Tech 1 units now, but you use your Tech 1 units that you have to pressure so he doesn't get suspicious. If you start, you don't want to play too defensive. You don't want to suicide your units, but if you're in a position that you pressure, it's always a good idea if you want to go for a snipe, because that will make him much less
distracted.
Yeah, and distracted. Yeah, well, you rather try to kill his power. Well, if you try to usually send 2, so you can at least kill it in one pass. And considering he didn't have a shield, could have also been a really good idea to actually, if you didn't feel that you are so much behind that you can't lose that you can't win anymore, could have been a really good idea to just wait for 8 Corsairs and kill all his pigeons in one pass.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go for the ACU, but then it doesn't matter how much mass you got, and that would ruin him, right? Even so, I would argue you would still lose, because he already has enough units on the field to pretty much kill you, while he would rebuild his power. But you could maybe defend with air or something. So would
yeah, at this point I just decide to try and make a laser and drop on him.
It's also a really good decision. I would say. I would probably go just for Corsairs, like 20 Corsairs or something, or 30 even. I'm not sure how many Corsairs are about as expensive as the laser, but you're also starting to slowly run out of mass now, especially since Island got killed.
Yeah, one person.
That was a large amount of your safe mass. Yeah. Oh, we can actually stop watching. Probably does that work?
No, it doesn't.
Do you get the laser done?
I do get it, but I fly just inside SAM range. I've got like a massively fortified base, so yeah.
Wait, why he doesn't have SAM here? So
he goes shield T3 and it was
right. Okay, that makes it harder. Yeah, but your awareness when you start losing and when you need to go for sniper, that's quite good.
Sometimes I feel like I have to do that earlier than is probably necessary, and I stop ecoing and...
Yeah, maybe. Well, from what I've seen, it was really good. Let's put it that way. Okay, so same question again. We could play, but if you ask me, it would actually make sense to watch a replay maybe against someone who's not much better than you.
I've got one. I do win it, but I feel I shouldn't have won it, and it wasn't like a snipe win, but yeah, there's a Nile 9, the one on your screen there.
Is that one? Twin Rivers?
On Twin Rivers, yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's watch that down. But yeah, we still have some time left, so we might as well watch some more, and then we can still play if you like.
Yep, sounds good.
But yeah, if I can make a suggestion, I would probably watch at least this. I would probably watch more after that as well, against people more close to your skill, because that can show much more about the usual mistakes, and also later mistakes. So let's see the score. Yeah, nice to see someone not complaining about the maps they get for a change.
I do like this one. I've played it a number of times.
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone actually liking any map in a while. I only see people complaining all the time about every map they get. Really see not many people actually saying they like maps, but I guess it's just that it's more comes more to mind to complain. So
it's easier to do.
Yeah. Okay, so this one expansion looks good. Maybe somewhat risky and not too protected.
I've played against him a number of times and know that it isn't too aggressive at the start, so I felt I didn't have to defend and I could attack.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. Also, if you ride like this, then you would probably make labs instead. Well, it depends a bit. If you expect him to have a tank there, right? Then sending a tank is fine. But if you just hope to get an easy kill because he doesn't protect it too much, then it's kind of wise to send a Mantis instead of just a lab. Okay, so yeah, your build was looking fun, but now it's not so much anymore because you have so much mass. But it's somewhat hard on this map. Was also reclaim early, but you would ideally try to. You do have a nice amount of power, but to just have even more a little bit power, so you can spend your mass faster. So that's it's hard. So when you play the map first time, I wouldn't really expect it. But what you should try is, whenever you play, be aware of what went wrong and try to do better next game. So try to about build order, try to improve it over time. So whenever you try to have a plan what you will do better next time. So that's kind of general advice of learning, but especially when it comes to build order, it's quite easy to execute because it's always like in this case you would think about you need more build power and you need more power, right?
Yeah.
To spend the mass. But you like if you would play a twin reverse next time, then you would maybe while you build your first factory or something, try to recall what did you do, what went bad last time, and what do you need to focus on this time, what you can do better. And then you remember, oh, last time I had so much mass and storage, and this time so I need to get more power. So I can actually spend this mass. And I think that way you can improve your starting builds over time. A lot. If you do that every game, in 5 tournaments games or something, if you improve it every time, then it will be close to perfect after 5 games or 10. Without having to go sandboxing a build or anything. By just gradually increasing it every time. And even if it's just a small thing, like at some point, like right now, you just have to think more power. But at some point, you can probably fine tune it and be like, okay, maybe one more pigeon, or maybe that was one pigeon too much this time, right? And you come closer to a point where you can really get it more detailed. Even so, as more mass a map has, as harder it becomes to really fine tune it, and it's more like yeah, some more pigeons or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's look at the game. This is really good. I think usually, yeah, transport is really important usually. So it would be a shame if it starts landing there and dying.
I think I realize. Bring it back.
Okay. So I often see people ignoring the islands for way too long, but the islands are one of the easiest ways to get an advantage because it's quite hard to raid once. It's relatively easy to raid early, but later, once someone is established, as you see, it's really hard to raid. He even made a point defense there, but even without the point defense, especially when ACU is there, without the ACU it's quite hard, because it's very obvious if someone raids. It's so easy to get radar coverage and everything, and it's just one way, so it's easy to block and prevent raiding. And it becomes a quite defensive map, so it's hard to get advantages on the main island.
Yeah,
so
it's quite turtly.
Easiest way to get advantages just to try to get the islands. And as earlier someone does it, as easier it is. And now, same thing apply as Loki, right? He starts having economy, he starts having 1 Tech 2 mass extractor, so yeah, you also have one soon, so that's pretty good. But you could actually, the same logic applies not only if you fall behind, but also if you want to get ahead. So you could make a good case for just saying you have a good chance to defend everything, and you just try to get ahead now in eco, and kind of doing that. So that's really good. It would also be possible to focus it a little bit more by assisting mass extractor now teching. Just need to be careful not to over eco, right? And then getting overrun. But as long as you don't get overrun completely, even getting raided a little bit, as long as you trade it for an economy advantage, is often worth it. As long as you manage to recover your territories that got raided afterwards.
Yeah, if you can recover eco.
Yeah, because your economy stays. So yeah, you don't really have a radar here. Maybe you tried to build one with this NG before I died.
Yeah, and you died.
But it's so easy to get really good radar coverage on the map that it's quite a shame if you don't. Like here. But you do have both islands now, which puts you in a really comfortable position. And it's also part of playing this game to know when you're ahead and when you're behind. As what from what I've seen, you have a quite good idea. At least you have a quite good idea if you're behind. So let's see if you also have a quite good idea how to if you're ahead, and if you can.
The bottom island gets dropped, and I don't notice it, and he ends up taking it.
Fine. So that kind of removes the advantage.
Yeah.
At least is that advantage? Like that's the map control advantage that even out. But the thing is, if you want to think about it like that, you already used this map control advantage to get ahead in eco, right? And now you could snowball that. But you don't really actually, because you get gun, and probably would be smart to finish the Tech 2 PGM before you get gun.
Yeah.
Or at least to get gun and then the Tech 2 PGM. You don't build it much with only one NG, but usually, yeah, now you build it much. So that's pretty bad, because the gun is delaying the pigeon and the pigeon is delaying the gun. So when you build...
I think I paused it, but it's probably a little bit late.
When you build... when you get gun, then it's more important on Tech 1 power actually. But many people be like, they build gun, so they start storing power, and then they start building power while they make gun. But building power costs so much further, it's actually delaying the gun. So usually either you get gun or you got power. And either you build power before you build the gun, or you just live with the stall and finish the gun, and then you build more power if you need it. But you, whenever you make gun, you don't really want to build power. And it doesn't matter so much if it's Tech 1 or Tech 2.
Yeah, because once it's done, you don't have a use for that power, unless you go to air or something. Yeah,
that's another aspect. Like, to actually try to use the power when you make gun, so you have a lot of power overflow, so you have to already plan how to use it, and it gets more complex here. How to like to not build too much power and so on. But anyway, so finish Tech 2 pigeons, then you make gun, and you stop decoying, right? And that's another really simple rule. Is once you start ecoing, unless there is a really good reason for it. The only good reason is usually like you get overrun and you need every unit you got and you're stalling, otherwise, is to don't stop.
Yeah.
And just continue ecoing one mass extractor after another. The thing you change is the pace. So usually how many engines assist is the thing you change. But you always want to eco at least a little bit. So you don't start falling behind. And if your opponent doesn't do it, then you will get ahead almost for free, because once you are a little bit ahead, then you don't lose anything out of keeping ecoing, because you just invest like 5% of your eco or anything, and that's not really, like 5% less units are not going to make a huge difference, but 5% more eco will snowball at some point to
and become 10% and so on.
And so on, and then it gets faster and faster. So the cost for doing it is really, really small, but the advantage is huge, because it builds up over time. That's the reason why you usually, once you start, never want to stop. And then you can still make the decision to, like, now I want to eco really much or something, and then you just upgrade more or you assist more. But yeah, unless there is a really good reason not to, always would want to at least as a upgrade one, or at a time, or have this like take all, upgrade, pause them, and assist with like 1, 2, or 3 NGs, right? And chain assist move. Know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next thing we can maybe talk about is Tech 2 transition. I need to make tutorial video about it, because I almost everyone I give lessons to is where I'm talking about this. People are really bad at this. Is to you're not. It's not the worst that I've seen, because you do actually transition somewhat to Tech 2, having 2 support factories. But similar thing is, the goal is of once you are Tech 2 is to put 100% of your unit production into Tech 2. That's the goal. That's what you want. With Cybran, it's actually smaller expectation, because you want to have maybe 1 factory making only Medusa to mix. So a Medusa kind of counts as Tech 2 unit as well. So of course the principle of it, you would still want 100% into Tech 2, but Medusa counts as part of Tech 2 then. Okay, but you don't want to build many Mantis anymore. Sometimes it can be good to still make Mantis for raiding and so on, but doesn't matter so much. More nitpicking. So the goal is to switch 100% Tech 2, which means you do kind of the same thing. Unless there's a really good reason, which means you need lots of units right now, and you really need to build some Mantis to stop getting overrun or anything. If you can get away with upgrading more factories to Tech 2, and then similar thing as with the like third factory principle and so on that we talked about earlier applies, is as more factories you already have on Tech 2, as easier it becomes to take more. And as more units, like if you already have 5 rhinos, the risk of getting overrun is much, much smaller. So what, okay, let's maybe start as a base. What you usually want to do is not upgrade all your factories at once to Tech 2, because then you make yourself really vulnerable, because you end up with a minute or something where you have pretty much 0 unit production. So what you usually want to do is upgrade them after each other. So you upgrade 1 or 2 at a time, or 3, and once they are done, then you do the next ones. So that's a general way of maybe pause of processing and transitioning to Tech 2 properly. Even so, if you have lots of Tech 1 units and you don't want to play super aggressive, if you think you can get away with it, you would in theory want to upgrade all of Tech 1 all at once, because the goal is to transition to Tech 2 as fast as possible, and that's the way to do it, right? Usually only don't do it because it's risky, but if you think you can actually get away with it, and if you think it's quite safe, then you would actually upgrade all of them to Tech 2 at once.
Yeah, I do that a lot of the time. I haven't come into the situation, at least at my level, that you do everything, you upgrade them all at once, and then you lose all your map control.
Okay. So in theory that's the best. Another reason why it's actually why I don't like doing it too often is because it's somewhat hard to judge. At least if you are at the limit, or if you don't have much mass overflow, then if you upgrade them all at once, then you might end up stalling, because Tech 2 factories drain more than Tech 1. So you might upgrade too much build power. That's another reason why it's convenient to upgrade them like 2 or 3 at a time and not all at once, because you avoid upgrading too many. So you avoid overloading your economy. So if you are at the limit at your mass, like if your mass is quite at ±0, then you never want to upgrade all at once as well. You want to upgrade half or 2/3 or something.
Yeah.
So need to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, principle. So anyway, what you're doing wrong here is you're still building way too much Tech 1, even so you could have completely transitioned to Tech 2. So you build less efficient units, and that's hurting you. At that point as a game, you wouldn't want to build any Tech 1 anymore, except Medusa for Cybran. And the same thing applies to Tech 3 later. And that's one of the biggest and one of the easiest to avoid mistakes of, I would say, people in your rating range. That they just waste a lot of mass into units that will just end up as cannon fodder. Except it doesn't really, because the opponents do the same mistake. Like, he's doing the same thing, he's having way too many Mantis that he doesn't really have any use for, and he's still building the... actually no, he's doing it correctly, right? He's doing it pretty perfect. He did not upgrade these factories to Tech 2 because he can't afford it. He upgraded just as many factories to Tech 2 as he needs. Except this one. Well, having one Mantis factory is not the worst thing in the world, but only thing that he is missing is... oh, here's one Medusa factory. That's nice. Only thing he's missing is... wait, I want to say the Medusa factory, but it's actually here. So, yeah, that's quite perfect. Maybe started a little bit late, but you had so many Mantis, maybe he was afraid that it's not safe enough to switch earlier. But that's perfect. It's 100% Tech 2 production and Medusa, minus this one factory. But that's okay. While you still have 3 factories making Mantis. And this Mantis, if they run against Rhinos, they won't kill anything. Like, not really. They will give veterancy, they will block your units, so it will be harder for you to have a tight packed amount of Rhinos. It comes actually to micro and stuff. And you just waste 12 mass per second right now, which is 15% of your income or something. Bit more, I think, even. So quite a lot. If you talk about how nice it can be to put 5% of your mass into eco, and then you're just wasting 50% of your mass right now. Yeah, and then need to avoid running into, especially SEU, also running in like that if you don't have much more. And it seems like it's about equal. Oh, that's a really bad attack.
My ACU's in the wrong position.
Side effect of that is you want to avoid building. I talked about how the Mantis will actually block your Rhinos and stuff. It still happens because you still have usually lots of leftover Mantis from Tech 1 stage, even if you don't build more. So what you often want to do is actually, so we never talked about micro, that will be first time, is don't move your whole army together. What you do is just move your Rhinos, fight with them, so you have them like at the front line, and it becomes really easy to have them in a concentrated force and do a lot of damage, and you keep the Mantis behind them. Kinda like you want to use your ACU together with Mantis, right? So you usually fight with the ACU at the front and you just have the Mantis behind in case there's an all-in engagement. Right? And then when he starts running into you, you can throw your Mantis in as well. But until then they don't really block units, and you have a really nice formation with your Rhinos. And otherwise you would, like, what you could do is have your Rhinos here, right? And you would kill all this front line easily, and then you can you don't do this all-in engagement. You just have your front line fight against his front line, and the back line of all units is gonna be out of the fight. Difference is your front line will be 100% Rhino, while his front line will be probably 50-50 or something. In this case, actually, since his army is turned in this direction, you would get all this for free pretty much. And you just have the Mantis to kinda be there if it evolves into both armies completely running into each other.
Yeah, at this point also I scout his commander and see it's on an upgrade, so I feel I have to push really, really hard now.
Yeah, it's not
sure
a bad
if
idea,
like
especially
right at this point, or in 30 seconds, but it happens.
Yeah, you're doing it now. I would say you don't have to push, but it's a really good opportunity because you have gun, so you can force a fight here while he's upgrading and maybe get a lot of kills, or at least you can stop his upgrade. So that's really good. Not sure, but well, where's your radar? Because your radar coverage is
I think they got killed and I forgot to make
yeah,
it.
but you still have radar coverage here, so there must be some radar somewhere.
Probably the scout planes.
Ah, no, you have the Tech 2 radar here. Yeah, that's really good.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, I approved. That's really good. You did overbuild a power, but let's focus on this battle for a moment. So I think you did cancel his outright, or did you actually finish it?
I don't think he finished it.
Yeah, I don't think so, so that wasn't much time. Yeah, he did cancel it. So that's good. So you can actually win the game here, because you have similar amount of units, and you can just pressure him. You would probably need to, he's going Tech 3 as well. So, in case you scout it and you know it, that would be another reason to push really hard. And use
yeah, I'm not sure if I realised that.
Yeah,
but I knew I was
hard.
Definitely way behind on air.
Yeah, that would make it somewhat tricky, but you do have a nice mix. You do have some flags. So he doesn't have gun, so you can just push here probably. Even though it's somewhat risky, but
I'm Tech 3 as well.
yeah, okay, that's good. That would be a reason if you if you don't know he's going Tech 3. If you're going Tech 3, that you can assume that he is that he's somewhat more Tech 2, right? And that you would rather want to wait for your Tech 3 and not go too crazy with your ACU. So that would be a counter argument to push. And big reason should be here. If you're ahead or behind an eco, because or map control. And but in total, if you're behind on the game, then you would probably want to push and take more risks. If you're ahead, then even if it would be a good idea to push with your ACU, then you're already ahead. You don't need to risk your ACU to win the game. Even so, it would probably work, but there isn't really any reason to, because you can even win without. And if you can win without your ACU, then it's always a good idea to put your ACU under shield or something and not use it, even if it will probably work. Okay, so if executed well, you could have pushed here, however, right? Because he didn't have gun, you did, and you have similar amount of units.
I felt I couldn't push very hard because he had air control and he had Tech 2 air, and I was thinking, oh, he's going to Corsair snap me or something, so I moved my commander back and forth and didn't really commit to anything.
Yeah, that's a good reason to not to. Even so, you do have, like, he does have about 3 times as many intis, but you do have a lot of anti-air, so unless he can get enough Corsairs to kill you in like 2 passages or something, which I guess he can get relatively easy. Okay, but now his air is all flying over 1 flag.
Commander under attack.
And you... I would argue that you should not make Corsairs if you don't have air control, except like you can make 2 for each pigeon and snipe it even without air control, but now you're just throwing them away. So Corsairs are really nice because you can use them relatively easy even without air control. You can just, if someone has unshielded power, then it's so easy to just, that should be shielded and be closer to Kaiser, so it would be really easy even without air control if you can just sneak 4 Corsairs past, kill both his pigeons. That can really easy win you the game.
Yeah,
but
I've done that before.
Yeah, you don't want to make Corsairs for anything else.
It was a bad rally point as well, all of them going in.
Yeah, so you just throw them away, okay. But making them, if you made them for the power, it's good. If you made them for anything else, then it's bad. You shouldn't, if you don't have air. Okay, so same thing. You actually stopped making Tech 1 and to some degree Tech 2. Same thing, you would... it was Tech 2, it's actually even more extreme. Because Tech 2 against Tech 3 is even more cannon fodder. So usually once you are Tech 3, you absolutely want to stop making Tech 2. So I would want to pause this factory. It's not even that you need to get to upgrade it to Tech 3. Just pause it.
I'd like to make lots of stealth and flak though to go along with the T3.
Yeah, that's okay. If you want some flag, you can make some flag as in this fact. Well, you can just put some flag in the Tech 3 factory actually.
Yeah, true.
And with other factions you can also make some shield and flag and so. Sometimes what I make, if I like with Aeon or something, I make couple of Tech 2 NGs and flag and like support stuff. Mobile missile launch is also not that bad on Tech 3 stage to take out point defenses and just make support units, but I don't want to build tanks anymore. Another reason why you can usually on Tech 1 stage, sometimes it can be necessary to build more Tech 1 units when you got Tech 2. Well, on Tech 2 stage actually, not when on Tech 2 stage it can be necessary to build some Tech 1 units and to transition more slowly and gradually. While in Tech 3 you can usually transition instantly. Once you have Tech 3 you can stop making Tech 2 completely. Another reason is that you usually have enough NGs to put 100% of your production into Tech 3. While on Tech 2 you often don't have enough NGs to assist your Tech 2 factory so much that you can put everything into, so you do sometimes have to make Tech 1 because you simply can't spend the mass otherwise. But on Tech 3 you can usually put everything into Tech 3, so you don't need to make Tech 1 anymore. So yeah, it's extremely rare that you still want to make a single Rhino anymore once you have Tech 3.
Yeah, that's
Commander under attack.
And he's dropping you, and that's painful. And
yeah, he
that's really
kills
good.
all the mass extractor. I had two, like a lot of my Tech 2 mass extractors were in the back there.
Yeah.
Two that are pretty much finished, and
Yeah.
that killed a lot of it.
So yeah, I think you're way about even in economy, and now you will probably start to fall behind from that. Also on Tech 2, drops are a really great way to get control back over the island. Like, it's quite hard once someone has an island, or also once someone has some units on the back, to take it back with Tech 1 units. But
Yeah.
it's really easy if you just drop 2 units of the higher tech, like Tech 2 or Tech 3 later. It's a very low investment to just drop 1 higher tech unit there, or 2, and you can usually get the whole island. And it's a really good way to get an advantage later that many people neglect too much. And a part of the islands why they are so good is not just the 4 mass extractors that you get, but it's also making it much easier to drop into the back and to prevent it yourself, because you get radar coverage here, so you can see drops much easier.
Yeah, I try to make TML, not in this game, but I
Yeah.
usually like to do that on the islands.
Yeah, well, he does have TMD, actually a lot of TMD.
I think he expected it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing the same thing, transitioning to Tech 2 Tech 3 nicely, and kinda missed what right this was. This gunships?
I think it was just a couple of Tech 2 units, and
Okay.
I wasn't paying attention and didn't get it
Yeah,
back very
right.
quickly.
So
It was
now
a
you
while
just
ago.
like it's not great to get raided here, but not the end of the world. And it's a bit worse to get raided here, but if you would get raided first here, then recover, then get raided here would be also okay. But if you get raided both at once, it doesn't really add up; it multiplies, right? If you get raided
Yeah.
in different places, so that's really bad for you now.
It's about here when I decide I just have to go pretty much all the way into the base with the gun ACU and all my units.
Yeah, I think that's a really good decision, because you're just far behind, and if you wait and do nothing now, then his economy lead will snowball now. Even so, yeah, thing with air control applies. It's actually worse, right? Because same thing, more mass is on the field now, so it's much easier for him to just build up the necessary amount of Corsairs. Same thing is
Yeah.
on a big map. The amount of Corsairs he needs stays the same, but it gets much easier for him to get it as long as the game progresses. And at the same time, pushing Tech 3 is much harder, because even if you have like 10 bricks and ACU and he has only 10 bricks, then it can really easy happen that you just focus your AC down. While on Tech 2 it's much harder for him to focus it down with the same amount of units. But I would still say it's a good call, because you don't have too many other options anymore. So since you say that you won this game, I assume that's working.
just barely. He should have just moved his ACU into the back right now, but
Yeah, I would think so. He should. We can maybe rather talk how to defend against this. Easiest thing is kite as long as possible, so you have as much time as possible to build more units. And
Yeah.
then one of the best way to defend against stuff is just spam a lot of shields. As support. Like, shields are one of the best units of this game, the most cost efficient units. So you can just, if you have like 5 shields or something and a couple of bricks, then it will be so hard for you to break through that. Rather than having like less bricks and more point defense or something. Point defense are not that great, especially Cyber, even so it would also make sense to try to build up point defense, but would be also good to build shields. And now
move my ACU back, which was probably a bad idea.
yeah, ACU should be at the front trying to overcharge bricks, or maybe at the mid somewhat, but you need to try to get in range of overcharging bricks. So that's a pretty good formation for him, especially with all this Medusa. Even some Medusa
A
after
lot of rhinos, though. I think that's what really changed.
yeah, you
that.
do have more units, and he is he didn't manage to finish gun, even so he had a lot of time. So gun would have been really important for him to overcharge bricks. And if he overcharged bricks well, and he reacted a little bit late and undecisive, I guess. Maybe he thought it would have been enough. So it would be better. He just need to get his gun done faster. Shouldn't be too hard. If he sees you start moving your ACU at the front and so, then he just puts all these engines on assist and finish it in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Nothing hard, and then spam up lots of tech 1 point defense, shields, right? Be more decisive with building more defense stuff, and then yeah, I think micro was actually not bad for him, being in a quite nice formation, kiting with the bricks. The thing was just without gun, he couldn't really overcharge your bricks, and that could have made a really big difference. And he's actually still winning this battle, right? But he had to go in with his ACU to overcharge. I'm not sure if he had to, but he did it anyway. So as a yeah, it was a mistake to go in there, or it was just bad luck or mistake that he didn't get a gun. But in any case, I think he could have even won that if he, yeah, just as you mentioned yourself, retreated his ACU and just used the bricks to clean up.
Yeah, he sniped all my power as well, so...
Yeah. And he could have also do what you said, is just make lots of Corsairs quite easily. Since he had complete air control. Like, but for that he needed to start early, right? He needed to start once he see your ACU moving forward a little bit. Or once he realized that you don't really have any other ways to win than all in. Why do I have 2 score buttons? What's the... what the hell? Never seen this.
I've got that a few times.
Both work as well. That's nice. Okay.
So what are we looking like on time? I forgot, was it 2 hour?
Yeah, well you got like 2 to 3 hours, so it depends how I feel like, how you feel like. If you feel like can do more, want to more, right? But we can do at least one thing more, maybe more, don't mind. And I feel like there's still, it's still not too much, right? At some point it just gets so much information and it gets that and it's just enough to work with it for a while. But I feel like it's not yet, so could do some more.
Yeah, so those are kind of my most recent and best ones I was thinking about showing you. Most of my other ones I know exactly what I'd done to win it or not win it, so they're a lot more obvious.
Okay. Well, even so, there are probably still many things that maybe not really the main reason for win or loss, even so sometimes there are other things, but usually still lots of mistakes happening
Sure.
that it's possible to talk about.
Maybe let's play a quick one, kind of just for the hell of it, but
Okay, sure.
maybe if I can get something away from it, might be nice.
Sure, we can also watch that replay afterwards, right? Okay.
Is there a push to talk for Skype maybe? Because I don't want the keyboard.
I don't think so. which is really weird because you would think that
Yeah.
a program for voice communication would have that option, but I'm not sure.
Because my mic's pretty close to the keyboard.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I don't mind. You probably hear my case as well, and I'm quite used to it. Like, your audio quality is decent. I gave lessons to people with horrible background noise sometimes, and so that's okay.
Okay.
I give lessons to someone and I constantly hear like his game sound, so his commander under attack and stuff. And that's really confusing if I attack his commander and I hear the sound commander under attack. Or if you, even worse, when our commanders fight each other and you hear twice commander under attack, once for you, once for him. But it's okay, can work with that. So yeah, you could host map of your liking.
So probably not something too big because, like you're saying, that's a lot harder.
And maybe a map where you think you are quite comfortable on.
I like Certus, so we might try that one.
And okay, while you host, I will take a small break, get something to drink.
Yep, sure. I'm so gonna lose this.
All right. Okay.
I might turn Skype down a little bit and probably won't be able to hear you because just of the noise. Oh, actually, is your keyboard quite loud? Because mine is. You might want to do it. But
can you I just type some?
yeah, that's okay. But I'll be like,
Yeah.
That's okay.
I don't mind. Right? I can live with that. If my sound is annoying you, then yeah, you have to.
Okay.
All right. So were you able to hear me or not? Maybe I shouldn't talk to you too much anyway and distract you.
Distract me. Yeah, I've watched a couple of your replays where you've done brick drops. They're really good.
Yeah, that was actually not that great this game. I was actually a bit greedy, takes 3 rush, a bit early. I mean, it still worked, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, I didn't really plan to lose quite so many Mass Expressors in the process. Even so, I got a lot of rectangle content, so yeah, no, you didn't do too bad. You gave me the whole quantum gate for free. That was not good.
I planned to move my ACU there, but then had to move them down to the side because of the raids. Even though I could have probably put units there, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you got all of that.
Would you like to watch this replay?
Yeah, definitely.
Alright. Then let me start screen share again. Let me guess that you use like this Christ build.
It's not copied off anyone else.
Oh, okay. Well, most people use it with the 2 cliff factories here.
Oh well, yeah,
and early pigeons. But it's not really like
it's just a meta.
It's not his build. People did that before, but he used reclaim quite well and everything. But sorry. Pretty much everyone does that now. But I have the feeling many people don't really understand the implications of that. Because what you said, it's you have trouble defending, and part of what's happening if you build your 2 first factories, like except first one, so second and third factory here instead of down here, means that if your opponent does the same and builds many units from that it will be naturally hard to defend here.
Yeah.
And as it also means it's like see people, some people make many NGs here. And it can be quite bad because it's losing out the opportunity to raid this position. Since people usually don't have enough units to defend it.
Mm.
And moving the commander around here to the middle is one way to stop this. But let's see.
I did a little bit of a mess though, like I think I had the wrong order between what my second and third engineer does.
Yeah.
I kind of
hurts a bit if it comes that early, and it's more than a little bit, it's quite long, quite bad.
Yeah.
So I already have one more factory than you. That's not little. And you do have, I also don't assist my factory, so I have later air, which is usually okay. I mean, you did bomb me, or at least attempt to, but yeah, you can usually live with that, since you need to cross the map and everything, and even if I lose 1 or 2 NGs, it's not too bad. So yeah, you make only one factory here, other ones here, so that's a decent way to deal with this aggression on the side. But since you stalled and everything got a little bit delayed, it's really hard. You actually recovered decently from the raids, but in return had to give up the quantum gate. Yeah, so usually it's quite nice to go there early with ACU, maybe build a point defense. If you have trouble defending, right? It's possible to do it without, but it's quite hard.
Yeah, it's in queue, but doesn't get.
Yeah, if anyone has trouble, then yeah, not with an Angie, with ACU.
Oh,
ACU goes here, builds a point defense, and then moves on. I actually built a point defense here as well. Because I realized I kind of forgot my ACU a bit, and I forgot to build these factories early. So these factories were late. I usually try to build them as early as possible, so I have units to defend. So I realized I don't have any units here, and I expected more units from you. So I actually don't stop my expansion, and I sent 2 NGs to build a point defense here, right? And I thought I probably can't get it done here, but in the end you didn't raid so much. But that was my reaction to it. To shift it, and that actually put me in some problems because I didn't have too much mass. Not yet, but soon I will stall because of this point defense, I think, but it's still worth it. So yeah, this raiding, I'm not sure if I got this engineer. I didn't really pay attention. I tried to dispatch a unit. Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, I put it on patrol here, but you hide the engineer here. So, and my scout, you see, I sent a scout to find the engineer, but by the time it arrived, my units were already dead. So this bomber was really good. Yeah, and you do actually build a point defense and do what I said. Yeah, but
I wasn't planning to.
You might. Yeah, you planned to, and then you had to stop because my units came and stopped you. And in that time, I'm already getting the quantum gate. So, either you moved really early, probably can't even build this factory and have to build it with NGs otherwise. Or you, like, at this time, you should be able to defend this position with units, and you shouldn't need the ACU anymore. Right, and then you can move it to the center. Many people don't go for the center early enough, so you can afford with relaxing here for a while, but once people start doing that, then you can't really anymore. Also, I would recommend not going for too early mass extractor, because it's part of the problem. You stall, you don't really have enough mass, and you would rather have another factory or 2, so you can have units here, right? And then you have your ACU here, and then you get 10 times as much mass as you would get from the mass extractor. So getting mass extractor too early actually hurts. I made one as well. Is that actually because of that you made one?
Yeah, it was
okay, what we talked about. Okay, so it's not too bad. It's that would be one of the exceptions where it's actually bad, because it's mostly because of this quantum gate, right? That messes things up a bit and breaks the rule. Usually it would be a really good reaction. So and I made one, it's actually part-wise mistake. I made one because I forgot building my factories, so I had too much mass, right? So my mass extractor was just reaction to a mistake from myself.
Okay.
and trying to make the best out of it. Okay. So you already got raided a bit, and then Quantum Gate comes on top, and then it's probably really hard to win from
That's
that.
a lot already.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I had so much mass that usually I would transition to Tech 2, but I was in the position that I thought, I have so much mass that I can probably, instead of going Tech 2, just rush Tech 3. And skip the whole Tech 2 process, because I could afford it. And now I'm using the... what I did is I threw up some extra pigeons, so I do have the power before I started assisting my mass extractor, so I do have the power to get these really quickly.
Yep.
And okay, let's see what you in theory, like that's already, you're so much behind that it's really hard, but in theory now would be the time where you would need to catch up in eco, right? Where you really force it, where you just try to hold. You have point defense here, some units, you have some units here, point defense. You can move your SU to one of the sides, so you don't need too much there, because I will probably not use my SU aggressively, because I won't put it at risk, so you have that advantage. So, which means you pretty much don't need too many units. You need some air maybe to prevent drops, but you could actually afford to maybe... an extreme version of catching up in eco is pause all your land factories and just put all assist on eco until you have as much as I do. That would be a really good reaction now.
Right.
Since, yeah, I do have... that looks kind of scary, right? But if you put your SU here, then should be alright. And it was alright. Point defense, building another point defense is smart. Especially with point defense, what can be also quite good, more on small maps, but can be quite good, just put one factory on only Medusa spam, and put a waypoint here, because I will obviously use my Medusas to kill your point defense, and then you can use yours to protect it.
Right.
That's quite nice on smaller maps, often where you have time to do, and where these little things matter. On bigger maps this usually doesn't matter so much, but catching up in economy now should be your first priority. And yeah, that's not enough, like 2 engines, it's more like, if you would be equal to me, then this would be how you would eco, right? Little bit assist, you have some mass in storage, so you want to, so that would be more like if I would also have one mass extractor, but if you're behind and I have more, then you want to force it much more, so I would want to assist with 5 engines or 10 or whatever, maybe even 2 groups or 5 engines separately here and here, since you have much mass. Obviously also need to take care of power, and since I'm Tech 2 you also need to make Tech 2, but what you don't need, where you get the resources from, is don't make so much Tech 1. Like, maybe you get overrun by Tech 1. That's a risk. But it's a better risk than dying to Echo, for sure.
Yeah. I thought about that, and I changed a couple of them to support factories, but didn't completely stop Tech 1 spam.
Yeah.
Some of them are Medusa
So
only,
these are two independent concepts here, right? The one concept is eco, which has kind of the priority, and the other concept is transitioning to Tech 2, which you need to do anyway. Like, if you would eco or not, all factories that produce Tech 1 currently should go to Tech 2 and transition. And that doesn't even matter if you're ahead in economy or behind or equal or what other. That's always the case. But on top of that, you would probably actually not want to build too many units, because you just need to invest into eco right now. Or you need to maybe don't eco at all and try to go for a snipe at this point. Because you're already so much behind. Like, at some point you are so much behind that you can say yourself, if you try to catch up, it's not gonna work. But right now I have 6 Tech 2 mass extractors, maybe 7, don't know this one. And you have 3. So 3 to catch up. It's not that crazy. It's possible. If you play defensive for a while, you also stop my attacks and everything, right? So there was some possibility, instead of doing all those attacks, since you actually have more units than me now, because I'm rushing Tech 3, to maybe use your SEU to defend one side, some units, right? You are not really under pressure unit-wise. So I could actually afford to make less units and try to catch up in eco. So that would have probably been the best decision right now. And you do switch some to Tech 2, but you still make Tech 1, right? So if you remember the Twin River game, so that would be, even if you would be ahead, would be something you don't want to do. You would want to pause these 2 factories additionally.
Yeah.
Or maybe pause one and then you have more mass to upgrade another one to Tech 2. If you would not be forced to eco right now. And then you have this one is making, well, this one gonna make me do that, that's good. But yeah, it's important to not just transition a little bit, but to try to make the transition complete as soon as possible, which means no more mantis. I was saying sometimes it can be good to make one factory with mantis, and that's when you find yourself in a situation where the map is quite open and something, and you end up raiding a lot, so you can split 3 mantis or something to raid, and you don't want to dispatch a rhino for that. And mantis are faster, so they're better for that. So you can build some mantis to raid mass extractors. You don't build them ever to fight anymore. You just build them to run around and kill mass extractors that are not defended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's only now that I saw the Tech 3 once that first brick started firing.
Yeah, now you didn't really see it.
I think I would have done a lot different if I saw that upgrade coming.
So what would you have done?
I probably would have held back and ecoed.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Even so, what you did is actually really good, right? You abused my phase of weakness as good as you could. Like, if you attacked a little bit later, then would really have worked. Or earlier, because I still had lots of units and everything, so... I defended well with like attack 2 air transport, and I set my bricks quite well. Not completely garbage as a game. But against the weaker opponents, this would have probably done much more.
Because the bricks would be walking around everywhere.
Yeah, and you would have maybe been a little bit later and everything, yeah. And you still killed all my stuff, right? I mean, it's not worth it because I do get also reclaimed, and I just rebuilt everything, and I did defend most of this, but it was close. You do get some units in and everything. Yeah, transport I see you here.
Yeah, I was thinking I could possibly overcharge them if they were going to go that way, but there wasn't many options for the other directions that they would go.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything like... And ACU alone can't do much. Usually you need to combine the ACU with some units for it to be powerful. And you... actually one mistake you do, you like 2 pigeons? Think about how many you actually need, and then you don't build Tech 2 power like you build Tech 1 power. So you just spam it. You need to make... Every pigeon need to be a conscious decision. Be like, I need 1 more pigeon now. Right?
Mm.
So 2 pigeons is absolutely mistakey. There's no way you can use 2 Tech 2 pigeons.
Yeah, I think I built it for possibly going for Corsairs once I'd known I'd lost. But
if you invest
once I lost air,
like if you put all your energies on Corsairs, then you could use 2. Yeah, but if you would just go Tech 3 right now, you only need 1.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if you build 1 too much. If you misplanned, right? That's okay, that happens. What's bad is if you got into the habit to always queue up 2 pigeons.
Mm.
Right? That's bad. If you think you need 2 pigeons and then you end up needing only 1, that's not that bad. But if you build 2 every game just because you build 2 every game, yeah, that's bad. Because that way you every time you accidentally build 2 pigeons when you only need 1, you kind of improve your ability to judge how many pigeons you need, right? Because at least if you're conscious, if you realize, okay, I built 2 pigeons and I only needed 1, and then you get better at judging how many pigeons you build. But if you just build 2 every game, like many people do, honestly, then you won't ever improve that. That's why I think it's much worse. Even so, it kind of looks like the same. Both people just build 2 pigeons, but it's very different. And yeah, well, can't do too much anymore in this situation.
Yeah, game over.
Yeah. Okay. Anything more you would like to know about something?
No, not for this game, I don't think.
Alright. Then up to you, we can continue, and I think at least for a little bit. At least I think we can do one more thing, maybe to so as you can play another if you want, or watch another replay. I would still think that the replay might be more worse, but it's your choice.
Alright, well, we'll do a replay then.
Okay, maybe you can still play another game afterwards, depending how long that takes.
I've got a different one.
What about this game?
Oh yeah, we could look at that one. That was okay. That was, yeah. I did win that one.
Yeah, that's 27 minutes, so probably quite some things happening. And what I usually did sometimes in my lessons is watch replay on one map, right, and then watch sometimes a good player to compare it and make more analyze, and then play this map. Well, now we are kind of doing the opposite, watching the map afterwards. I made really good experience with it, but it's more for people who take more lessons, so I already know more about them, and I can tailor the advice a little bit more.
Yeah.
And for you, I haven't actually seen too much because we didn't see too many replays where you play against same skilled opponents, right? So I didn't see too many of the mistakes that you probably usually do. I just tried to give you much general advice, but let's see. So I can't give you too much. That's especially for you really useful to focus on. Yeah, they even saw some things like Tech 2 transition is for sure one thing to focus on, and the other thing is probably this whole catching up and eco stuff, and the whole theory and principle, but to be more conscious and aware of that.
Yeah, he does a lot of dodging as well with the engineers.
Yeah, that's nice dodging 3, 4. That's really good. Probably would have dodged that next one as well. Okay, yeah, he stalled a bit again. So that would be again the point when you play, right? If you realize it, and you should, then next time you try to avoid it and you try to change something. Doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't even matter if the change you make might make it worse in the end. But beware, and if you just change something, so okay, let's think about what would you change. You would probably not build this factory here, or not this factory, right? Because or you try to reclaim better, but you do reclaim really well actually, right? Most of it a gun, so it would be hard to reclaim more. Maybe you could send an early NG to reclaim here or something, or here. Right? There are two ways. Either try to get more mass or try to spend less mass, or spend it a bit slower. But that's not good, and yeah, you can fix it relatively easy. And then your power waste might disappear. If it doesn't, then maybe next time you play, you would still think, okay, I'm not stalling mass anymore, but I still have too much power, so maybe I should skip one PGen here before the air factory or after, and maybe assist less with it, right? Build a little bit less power, and then fine-tune it over time. Yeah,
I've kind of gotten into the habit of pretty much every map having at least one engineer on a constant power spam.
Yeah, that's quite good, but at the start, right, maybe sometimes, yeah, it doesn't really matter about what exactly you do, but I think finding one thing to improve every time is a really, really easy way of constantly improving, and don't get into a habit that you repeat your mistakes all the time, right? And stop improving if you use that approach. Because otherwise it's quite easy to be like, yeah, I had a minor stall, but wasn't that bad. Or I know it's bad, but by the time you play next time again, you forgot it already, and then you do it again. That's, it's not so much to make you improve, because you kind of do that anyway, and not so much to make you realize what you should do, but it's more about avoiding to forget to focus on it, and avoiding to forget that you actually wanted to do something there. And if you force yourself to always find one thing, then you will always remember it. So
yeah, this is kind of what I was planning to do versus you, but it actually working is build the point defense and then AC to the center.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that, because by the time the NG builds a point defense, you should have enough factories. Then rather build another factory. You should have enough units to protect this position, right? So by the time you get it, you don't need it anymore. So either you need to build it really early, when you actually need it, because you don't have many units, or I wouldn't build it at all. Or actually, you can build it later. It doesn't cost much, right? So it's still a decent point defense. But it does not help you against the problem of this being open. It's more just, well, it doesn't hurt just in case later maybe there's a good attack. So it's just more the security and redundant thing, right? It's not bad, but it does not really solve the problem of getting too much raided, because the raid period of this comes earlier. Timing for it. Pausing air if you stop power, really nice, and unpausing it once you have power again, even better. Happens more often than people would think, so they just forget to unpause it the whole game. Happens to me a lot as well. Okay, so what's happening? He got 2 tech to mass extractor and you got 0, but now you catch up. Which is really good. That's more what you should have done as against me as well, right? More NGs. Well, it's 3, you had 2, but 2 mass extractor at the same time as well, and could put more. Wouldn't be a bad idea to put even more NGs on assist. And if you assist mass extractors heavy like this, it doesn't even matter so much if you stall, because the stall is very short term, right? And it's just showing that many resources go into that. Even so, unless it's really necessary, so unless your opponent is tech 2, like now, I would avoid ecoing heavily and going tech 2 at the same time. It's more like that you eco heavy and then you go tech 2. Or you go tech 2 and get some units out and then you stop making too many units, right? You get this first 5 rhinos, or 5 is rather arbitrary number, but it's not a bad guess. You get the first units out to try to make use of your tech 2, and then you switch your focus back to eco. That works as well. But if he's tech 2, then you kinda need to go tech 2 as well. But here, then, yeah, same thing. You would already want to upgrade some factories. At least one. Maybe I would probably upgrade 2 factories to tech 2 now. And then once I don't have mass, if I stall, then I would pause the other ones. Because it doesn't look like if you don't build many tech 1 units right now that you will get overrun. Looks perfectly safe. You have point defense everywhere, so you have your ACU if needed, can send it to both sides. So it's quite unlikely that you will lose much. And also he went tech 2, so he will probably rather attack with tech 2 soon than tech 1, right? So it's not likely that you will die to tech 1, which means you don't need to make much tech 1 anymore. So you kinda do that, but not really that decisive, right? You do it on a very low focus and priority, just 1 factory. I would probably already have these 2 factories, and now I would work on 2 more. And then would...
Going tech 2.
Oh, actually you do tech more, yeah. Yeah, you do tech 3 now, that's better. But then, yeah, could still actually, probably once they are done, immediately do the next ones, or pause them. And maybe pause the tech 1 factories now, then put 1 on Medusa like you already did. I would keep that one running. And then this time was better, right? You didn't do gun and tech 2 power at the same time, but got your gun first. Then your scouting is also the game against me was not bad, quite decent. And now you can see that's the point. You don't need to scout too much because you can see he just transitioned to tech 2. So you know you are really safe for a while, but you can also know, very important against Aeon, that he's not hub rushing, right? Otherwise he wouldn't make support factories. So that's really important. That's also important to scout after someone after Aeon is tech 2, if he goes instantly for tech 3 or not. But now you know there will probably be rather large tech 2 army soon, which means you need to transition to tech 2 as well. And now would be the point where I would lately, when I see that, completely stop making tech 1. Because when he upgrades factory, he will not really kill you on tech 1, and at the same time, all tech 1 that you produce from now is useless. We'll just give veterancy. And mostly I would focus on trying to not fall behind in eco, maybe trying to get ahead slightly, and you are kinda doing that. Right? Ecoing at a decent pace. And having a gun, I think if you have gun, you can't really do much here with the ACs. There isn't anything you can actually kill in this position, right? You can get
It's
some...
in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I would probably rather use my SU here, if you want to use it, because here you can actually get control over 5 mass extractors, probably able to raid this one, so 7 mass extractors in total. While here you can, it's not useless to have this position, because that opens the way up to raid here, right? But it's not most amazing thing in the world. So I think if you get gun using it aggressively, rather use it here on the side.
Okay.
Unless you want to go for all-in push. Then going through the middle is perfectly fine because it's faster. And then you just walk into a space. But you don't really have the units to do that. And if you do that, then it's also smart to reclaim the walls and even the civilians to have more space. Okay. So here actually something happening. You build way too much power. One pigeon is enough. And you need the second one eventually, but you don't need it yet. So you need to start building it when you need it. And yeah, getting Tech 2 air, nothing wrong with that. And let's see, Tech 1, you don't actually build Tech 1, you have this factories idle. What I usually do is I queue up one NG or something, I pause them rather than having them idle. But that's for reasons because I don't want things idle here. Because if you have 4 idle factories here all the time, then you won't see if one of your factories goes idle that's not supposed to be idle, right? You won't see the symbol popping up. Because at least I don't. I mean, if there's a number 4 or number 5, it's in the heat of the battle, you don't really notice that. But what you do notice is if the symbol appears or not. So usually I try to
look
prevent
at those icons to the right there though.
Okay, well maybe should try doing that sometime. Quite useful, but at least that's my my reasoning for never have factories idle and rather have them on pause.
Yeah, that makes sense though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen you having idle factories much, so I guess you don't need to look at this if you have a good feeling for when your factories are done, right? And if you don't ends up having them idle, so it's not really required. Even so, if you find yourself, maybe I just lucky that it didn't happen in the games we watched. If you find yourself having idle factories too often, then looking there more often can help. Also for NGs. But that's looking quite quite alright. So I wouldn't say that you would need to focus on that. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the phase of the game where most things are quite equal, right? And you just need to take some small advantages, maybe get some reclaim, do something like drop TMA, get creative to get small advantages, and then snowball those advantages into eco advantage. And you have exactly the same amount of eco, I believe. Yeah, 5 each. So no advantage for either. So maybe a really interesting phase of the game. And there are different ways how you can get ahead, right? One is play more aggressive, try to get ahead with creative things, yeah, drops, better fights, like ACU push like this, and just keep equal and equal. Other way would be to play more defensive, just wait for him doing mistakes, and focus more on eco, right? So you just like if he puts 5% of his economy into more eco, then you put 10% and try to snowball it from there, and you just have again 5% less units, and it's relatively easy to defend against that. Probably one of the most efficient ways to play this game. Right. Can be boring at times. And yeah, it's more a matter of preference and playstyle, what you enjoy, which you would do, right? Even so, I would say the ecoing thing is ultimately better, but no, it's only better because it's more fail-proof. Again, right? If you get ahead in eco and then you do some mistakes, then you still have lots of tools to win. While if you play aggressive and it fails, then you put yourself behind to a large degree because of how reclaim works in the game. Well, because if aggression fails, you usually don't just not win anything, you actually lose something because you give reclaim. But yeah, you're using your SEU here now, so you do the more aggressive approach, right? You do something to get an advantage, and you use that was really good what you did here. You use the SEU just to open this up, right, to get into the position.
Yeah, that was the plan.
And then you don't get greedy because you already got your advantage, so you can pull out with your SEU now and get it safe again, which would mean walking all the way back like you do now. Put it under the shield, something. Because now you got your advantage and now you can snowball it from there. And same time that seems to be a really good battle for you. About equal numbers, which means with the reinforcement you should win, and that's gonna be all you reclaim. And how you play it from here is again, now you actually don't have 2 options anymore like before, but you have 3, because you can either keep up the pressure with Tech 2, right, and do everything, or you can use the advantage that you have now to slow down your unit production in favor of something else, like you do here with Tech 3. Or you could again, you always have the choice to change your approach towards eco. When you get an advantage, then you can always say, okay, now I got it, now I want to play it safe. Or you can say, I want to keep, I don't need to get a hit in eco because I will just keep up the pressure and I will get more and more advantages. Like, very often a solid mix is good. To put a bit more in eco, like to distribute your advantage. Like, if you buy stock papers and you don't usually buy one share from one company, but you distribute it a little bit, so in case one fails, you still have the other one, and if you get an advantage, that's the same thing you want to do. You want to increase the pressure with more units, but you also want to get ahead in eco. So that's kind of the balanced approach to this 2 decisions. You could do either, but why not do both?
Yeah, I went to just snipe the power instead.
Yeah. While sniping Tech 1 power.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the Tech 2 was there. And then I go for it eventually.
Well, if you would get the Tech 2 power on top, then this would be the reason why you win this. I mean, not really the reason, because this attack was kind of the reason that got you ahead. And then once you're ahead, then you just need to find more ways to pressure and snowball. And it's relatively easy to open up new things. Like if you get ahead and land, then it's really smart to just start using this advantage to build air as well, because you likely won't be prepared for that. So it's your price is really smartly. Now you kill his power and now it's over. That was played really well. Like the sense what you need to do in what situation, right? That works really well. Because you actually know, oh boy, just by chance, coincidence, but it was really good. Even so, you did overbuild power quite a bit. In your situation, you could actually afford it, right?
Yeah, I've gone for Tech 3 air. It was kind of over by then.
Oh, okay, yeah. So now the power is fine. Also, the second pigeon was still maybe one of the... you didn't make too many other mistakes here. Okay, let's close that here. Okay, yeah, we're approaching 3 hours, but we can do one more thing. And again, up to you. One more replay or one more game? Last thing, you decide.
Well, maybe if we do a game on like Theta or something quick, I might be quickly able to look over it and like the smaller things about unit micro, because I haven't heard too much about that.
Yeah, let's do that.
We've been on the big maps. Okay.
Commander under attack. Commander under attack.
Okay, not sure if we get to talk too much about unit micro, but ACU movement maybe?
Yeah, I think it was that.
But let's see. It's a setup can be quite difficult because small things can really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Need to be sometimes really careful with what attacks you want to take. Like you did one trying to raid me with too many units instead of just 2 mantis or something, and then you lost all of them, and then that can snowball. But let's see. I would probably rather build the radar here than here, because that's first it's quite risky. I actually both build first the radar here and then later try to build another one here, but that's rather relatively risky to die. And I think it can be really useful to have the radar early because of the ACU movement situation.
Yeah.
Seeing where the enemy AC goes is really important, and that means having the radar early helps immense. So right now you don't really have any idea I'm here, while I know that you are coming, so I can react to it much better.
Yeah, I see.
And an example, this wouldn't be possible without the radar, right? So I wouldn't be able to stop this. And as that's attack, you're gonna lose 4 mantis to this. And you kinda need to make a you need to make a guess if I have units in this area or not, right? So if I have units, maybe just send 2 mantis or something, right, to pressure me a bit and maybe kill it if I don't pay attention. I mean, 4 is not too, like 3 or 4 is not too much of a difference, but this is a move that can kill you if you do it with too many mantis. If you attack into unknown territory, unless you have a good reason to assume that I don't have too much there. Because you might just run into superior amount of units, and then the counterattack will raid you. And you also lose a lot of reclaim. I'll need to be careful to raid, but not attack with too many units, if there's a chance of losing them. And this is actually not bad, right? You say, I'm coming here, so you just do the same thing to me. But then you get greedy. Which is not the worst move, honestly. Because, yeah, I could do the same to you, and you expect making the point defense. You see, I don't bother making a point defense, because you should be able to defend this with units alone if I don't send too many units on my own. And that's why it's very important to instantly rebuild the radar. You actually kill this on the way, because I built it a bit too greedy, but you really need to know, you can still build the point defense right now or something. If you see he is actually, like now, you see he's actually really coming for the base, and you can still do it. You can say I'm walking away, because I'm gonna kill you. So you don't need the point defense, you need units. So building
and it's worth a lot of units, yeah.
Yeah, too early can kill you. And usually if you do this move, then you need to have all your units with your ACU. Even so, you already, since I raided you quite well and everything, you have 14 and I have 22, so you can do this move. 14 against 22 is not, like, against me it's probably hard to win, but against similar skilled opponent, it's not the end of the world. However, you need to play more defensive, and you can't run into his base if you have less units. You can only do that if you have at least equal amount of units. And
I just knew if I could take out the Hydro, maybe if he stored on power, I could eventually get more units than you.
no, it was already way too late. Like, what you needed to do is realize my ACU is not coming for your base, it's coming for you instead, and then retreat. Get after this mass extractor. Because then we are equal, right? I killed your mass extractor, you killed mine, so everything is fine. No one got hurt, except two mass extractors. But once you're in this position, you will never get out. And like, even if I store power, like, you need to think about it takes a long time until you actually get unit advantage, and then you need to bring this unit across the map. That's gonna take 2 or 3 minutes until it actually matters if I stall. And in this 2 or 3 minutes you will be already dead. Like, now, recap my Hydro. I mean, I saw it, so but I didn't even need to prepare power because I already had enough. Now I queued up a little power here. You see what I'm doing? I'm just letting you have what you want. I just save my units until my SU is there, and then I will kill you. And even if I would stall now or soon, let's say I would start stalling now, then I already have the amount of units that I need.
Yeah.
Even so, if you could have similar amount of units, but they would be to a large part still on the other side of the map. But yeah, you don't. I mean, if you had same amount of units as I did, this would not necessarily be a mistake. Then it could be good, could be bad, depending on how it plays out, right? Would be a risky move, but it could eventually, if you get out with your life, it could pay off. It could be good, but the condition to do that is to have at least equal amount of units, because if you less, then this can't work. And you see, I had the choice. I could have built a point defense, but I knew that I'd rather build another factory here, because I didn't plan to. Often, if you build a point defense, then you give up the map, right? You would need a point defense if I try to push your base. I knew I didn't need the point defense because my ECU was coming to protect it. So should I build only point defenses really if you absolutely need them? In this case, if I would push your base, you would need it. But
because I didn't have enough units to do it, that's why I built it. I was thinking,
yeah,
I don't have at least 25.
So the mistake was actually not rebuilding the radar fast enough, right? So you couldn't see if I push your base or not.
Yeah.
But once you see me walking back, then you need to make sure that you don't build it too early. But as I said, I guess it's quite hard to judge how early you need to build it, because obviously you can't build it too late. And it's important maybe to try. That's actually one of the few cases where you want to have resources in storage. So in case there is your push, you can throw up, and you want to prepare like 3 or 4 NGs. In case you need it, you can throw up the point defense really fast. If you stall while trying to make a point defense, it can be killing you. It sometimes can make sense to pause all the factories to make the point defense, but it's still better than building it too early, and then it's useless, right? I mean, it wasn't really the reason why. It didn't really matter, because another factory would have maybe produced 1 Mantis, and the 1 Mantis wouldn't be now on the way, so it wouldn't have made any difference. But in other situations, it can make the difference. But it's a mistake on a rather high level, right?
Yeah.
Like against many people, in many situations, this point defense would have been okay. So it's rather advanced mistake.
It's good for making advanced mistakes and not.
Yeah, it's a simple one, right? That's a mistake where you actually have to do a couple of longer sentences to explain why it's bad. And in the end, that means it's not that horrible, because there are situations where this move is good, while other mistakes are just always bad. And
Right.
so it means it makes much more sense to focus on the easy mistakes because they're much easier to fix, and they will make you a better player for less investment, pretty much.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. That was that. Unless you have any more questions, anything you would like to know, then now would be the time.
No, I don't think I have any other questions. That was very helpful.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good Easter.
Yeah, you too. Okay, bye.
Bye.